the incumbent party has won again. So it means they have broken the 8. What happened in Nigeria last week was very well of interest to Ghanaians. Many of us monitored what was going on in Africa's most populous country because, like many other countries within the sub-region or in Africa as a whole, lots of interesting things happen. And many political parties learn lessons from what they observe. And for some funny reasons, 3 key interested parties were in Nigeria to monitor the elections for various reasons. For example, former President John Mahama, as we know, has been engaged in several other countries as head or a member of an observer mission, either in the name of AU, EU, or West Africa. So he went there in that capacity. We also know that our chair of the Electoral Commission, G. Mensah, was also there. You remember when she was summoned by Parliament, there was that controversy over whether she will appear or not. But of course, we know she was in Ghana yesterday and faced Parliament. And we're also picking signals that the campaign coordinator of the 2020, that's Nana Akufo-Addo's campaign team in 2020, Peter McMenu, was also in Nigeria. So whether we like it or not, John Mahama was there as an observer, but would be eavesdropping and closely monitoring the activities of the Electoral Commission, complaints by political parties which boycotted the election, for example, and how the processes ended. Because we know that today, the All Progressives Congress, President Buhari's All Progressives Congress, won the election. The former governor of Lagos, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is now the president of Nigeria. That is, if those who walked out during the declaration of results will not be going to the Supreme Court to challenge the electoral results. But you would notice that how things unfolded in Nigeria, ballot stuffing, violence at polling stations, for example, allegations of vote buying, manipulation of the voters' register, because they also went into the election with a different voters' register, which is supposed to be very new and very accurate in terms of the credibility. But many things that happen in Nigeria appear to be synonymous with what we have been experiencing in this country over the years. For example, I made reference to rigging, issues about ballot stuffing, and we've seen a lot of videos on social media as we saw after the 2020 elections. We know the EC system was hacked. In Ghana, for example, if you remember, in 2016, there were concerns and allegations that the EC system was hacked. In 2020, there were reports that NDC's compilation, that data compilation systems were hacked. So there are related issues. In Nigeria, some officials were arrested. In Ghana, several of such arrests were made. And you remember that NIA officials were arrested, EC officials were arrested. I remember the Techiman South incident, for example. All these things are similar to each other. But what is very important when you look at the trend of events in some of these African countries is that they may be staged by government, that's the ruling party, to manipulate the system, or opposition parties to create unnecessary confusion. Here in Ghana, there are 3 things I want to draw your attention to, which are still outstanding and which create the suspicion about what unfolded in Parliament today, for which the minority has been speaking to. And I'll tell you why today's program is dedicated to the concerns raised by the minority as far as the voters' register is concerned. You recall that there was a time somewhere close to the 2020 elections when we heard reports about the arrest of EC or NIA officials who were secretly registering people, and they were able to overcome such people within the Kaneshi enclave. And so you see from some of the materials I'll be sharing, for example, in Tamale, we know that the Northern Regional Police Command arrested 2 electoral officers of the Electoral Commission for registering citizens at a non-designated area. And this cut through a number of places, and such reports came. As we speak, we don't know what has happened to such people. In fact, in that report by the Ghana News Agency, one Superintendent Kobina Otio Achiampon, the crime officer at the Northern Regional Police Command, confirmed the arrest and said on July 17, 2020, when the preparation of the voters register was ongoing, the police, acting upon intelligence, arrested suspect Mumuni Abela Yusuf, data entry clerk at Panshegu registration cluster at the East Gonja district. That is not all. These people were using official data capturing machines for illegalities. As we speak, the police service, the electoral commission, in fact, nobody has given us updates, including arrests made by the NDC itself, because the NDC went to sleep after those arrests. Joshua Kamba was leading. I remember all those deputy national organizers were involved in some of these back and forth. You remember in the 2020 elections, I remember clearly that EC officials were reportedly arrested. Some were printing ballot papers more than was expected. Those ballot papers were bent. As we speak, we don't know what happened. And these narratives will be bringing your attention to the concerns being raised today and why the issues raised by the minority must be taken serious. Now look at this EC statement. This EC statement was issued somewhere on 7th December 2020. Sorry, the picture is quite blurry. And it says, the Electoral Commission wishes to inform the general public that the two officers who tampered with the presidential ballot papers in Ewutu Senya West and Boku Central have been arrested and are currently in police custody. Now, these things have gone on over the period, and so it brings to question what is on the table today. The minority is raising concerns. Yesterday, the Electoral Commission was in Parliament. The National Identification Authority was also in Parliament, represented by the chief executives of these two state institutions. Again, you remember that on two occasions, the majority in Parliament attempted or tried to smuggle the laying of the draft report of the constitutional instrument that seek to limit the eligibility to get a voter's card to the national ID card. Now, what is interesting and most worrying is that there was a heated debate on the floor of Parliament. There was an initial attempt to stop Parliament as a whole from giving the media access to the conversations and the briefings by Jean Mensah and Professor Atefa, who is the executive secretary of the NIA. But what is pathetic is that the media, which had access to beam live the conversations, the debate, the questions, the responses, knew what happened. But this morning, you would notice that there appears to be a certain grand scheme to muzzle out, to keep the public out of the serious concerns we have as a people that have been raised, that we should all look at as Ghanaians and see how best we dispassionately deal with the issues. Most of the newspapers in Ghana today did not mention any of the critical concerns raised by the minority. For example, look at the Custodian, the newspaper, look at the headlines, and you notice, "Stop defaming me, Obi Amwa wants the Ghana First Company." No, you notice that at the top, you notice something about the Electoral Commission. "We won't use Ghana card for 2024 polls." Positive. The false assurances that the EC keeps giving Ghanaians. Now, you move to next, and you notice that most of the newspapers, for example, the Daily Guide, and look at it, you notice that there is a publication on the Electoral Commission, and there's nothing on the serious concerns that the EC has to look at. And if they have to review the CI, they would look at it. And I urge my producers to keep the videos rolling. Now, Ghana card will not be used to vote. So it gives you an indication of a syndicated publication that was given to Media House to tow a certain tangent, to put the Electoral Commission, the NIA, in a certain positive limelight without paying serious attention to the concerns raised by the minority, which borders on access, availability, and what many would describe as the monetization of the eligibility to vote. Because if it is in the district capitals and you can't go that far, then it means that you don't have money, and for which reason you may not have Ghana card if you don't have. Look at it, Ghana card, not voter ID card substitute, EC. So it gives you an indication of a certain headline that was sent to editors to tow that tangent. Now, because of this, XYZ Broadcast and TV XYZ has decided that the concerns raised by the minority, which was echoed at a press conference today, we will dedicate this program to play back the serious issues and addendums that were added at the press conference today, the critical questions that were added that exposed other serious issues that you have to look at. Now, we are doing this because today, as we speak, all of us are saying Ghana is in an economic mess. Several months ago, there were cries, there were appeals, people were begging statesmen, influential people to speak to power, speak truth to power, so that at least government will bow to pressure and do the right things. They sat on the fence, looked on, and today we are in this deep crisis. But I may not be affected because I don't have bonds or I don't have any savings. Several other poor people will be suffering, but they will be suffering because times are hard. But they will not be crying because there are haircuts. The middlemen and those who kept quiet are the ones suffering. If anybody messes up in this country and there's chaos, there's confusion, there's violence, I believe the poor people are already eating grass. They are already suffering. And in as much as they will be displaced or they may bear the consequences, those of you who are crying over haircuts, those of you who are now waking up and realizing the reality and forgetting that you sat on the fence and pretended you didn't see bad governance, impunity, and abuse of public purse going on, will suffer. So we decided that we'll go to that press conference, and what they are preventing you to hear, if you missed it during the day because you are at work, you will listen to the issues raised by the minority. And today, the press conference was addressed by the leader, Dr. Kasil Atto Forson. Listen to him.
Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution guarantees the right to vote by stating the following. Every citizen of Ghana of 18 years or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen from the media, what the Electoral Commission's proposed CI6 to do, however, is to restrict the realization of the rights of Ghanaians, as Regulation 1.3 of the proposed CI states. A person who applies for registration as a voter shall provide as evidence of identification the national identification card issued by the National Identification Authority. Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution requires evidence of citizenship and not evidence of proof or proof of identification. Any evidence of citizenship should therefore qualify a person to be registered. That is why under the current CI 91, as amended by CI 126, Ghanaian passports and guarantor systems are allowed as evidence of citizenship. Clearly, the proposed CI, which makes the Ghana card the sole requirement for voter registration, serves as a restraint on citizens' right to register and exercise their franchise in elections. It is important to remind the Electoral Commission, headed by Madam Jane Mensah, that the Commission is enjoined by the Constitution to advance the right to vote and not to introduce any law that seeks to curtail same. Indeed, Article 45E of the Constitution the Electoral Commission is to undertake programs for the expansion of the registration of voters. Instead, the EC rather seeks to undertake a program for the restriction of the registration of voters. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Identification Authority, which is responsible for the issuance of Ghana card, has admitted publicly that there is a backlog of millions of Ghanaians who are yet to be issued with Ghana card. The NIA has admitted that about 3.5 million cards have been locked up in a bonded warehouse due to indebtedness owned by the NIA to its private partner. And the indebtedness is 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent of 117 million US dollars. Again, speaking on Newsfire on Tuesday, on Saturday, 25th of February 2023, the Executive Director of the NIA, Professor Kenneth Ajeman Atefa, said, and I quote, "Since about August of last year, we have experienced financial constraints in the system, and it created a situation where even though we have 3.5 million stock of cards in a bonded warehouse, we are unable to access the cards because of the financial difficulty," unquote. He proceeded by saying that currently about 2.5 million cards are yet to be printed. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the words of the National Identification Authority and not the minority. It is also a fact that the registration process for the Ghana card has been characterized by several difficulties, including logistical constraints. The National Identification Authority has further admitted that the issuance of Ghana card is a continuing process and therefore cannot be completed at any point in time. Therefore, making the Ghana card the sole requirement for voter registration cannot be accepted, as it would deny millions of Ghanaians their right to register and vote. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission herself, Mrs. Jane Mensah, in the Daily Graphic of Tuesday, September 13, 2022, front page, is reported to have admonished the National Identification Authority, the NIA, to make Ghana card acquisition process faster. This is a clear admission that there are problems with the issuance of the Ghana card with the Electoral Commission, which the Electoral Commission want to use as the sole proof of identification for citizenship. As we speak, millions of eligible Ghanaians do not have the Ghana card, and therefore stands the risk of being completely disenfranchised. These groups can be placed in three categories. Group 1, there are thousands, there are those who have registered for the Ghana card but cannot be issued with these cards. The number of people in this category stands at a staggering 645,663. Category 2, there are those who register with the Ghana card but have unfortunately misplaced their cards and proceeded to do another card, which registrations are now on hold. This category of people account for thousands of Ghanaians as well. Thirdly, there are a huge 2.5 million Ghanaians who have not been able to register for the Ghana card as we speak. Any attempt by the Electoral Commission to insist on the Ghana card as the sole identity document for the registration of the voter would therefore deprive the vast majority of our people of their constitutional right to register and vote. The proposed CI again seeks to completely eliminate the use of the guarantor system for the purposes of proving one's eligibility to be captured onto the voter register. This proposition, we reckon, is a deliberate ploy to deprive millions of Ghanaians the opportunity to register and have their names on the electoral roll. For emphasis, the Electoral Commission was pushed to provide evidence by our ranking chairman of the subsidiary legislation, the Honorable Dr. Ahianyo. The evidence she brought to back the claim of the so-called abuse of the guarantor system. The EC indicated that in the 2019 voter registration, for instance, only 15,474 people, representing 0.09% of the total of a total of 17,029,981 registered voters were challenged on the basis of the guarantor system. This statistics is very insignificant and obviously immaterial percentage to warrant a total abrogation of the guarantor system, particularly at a time many do not have the Ghana card. We say this because the National Identification Authority, National Identification Register Regulation 2012, LI 2111, makes room for the guarantor system when it comes to acquiring the Ghana card. It is therefore unclear to us what mischief the Electoral Commission is seeking to cure by relying solely on the Ghana card as a source document for the registration of voters, yet intends to completely outlaw the guarantor system, which constituted about 40% of Ghana card registration. We hold the view that the time-tested guarantor system must be maintained in our voter registration processes, and this position is absolutely non-negotiable. Common sense should tell any objective-minded person that the source document for the Ghana card must be a source document for the voter ID card, and vice versa. Colleagues and ladies and gentlemen of the media, the proposed CI provides that the Commission shall designate the district office and any place it considers appropriate as a registration center. In view of this, we of the minority hold a considered view that above provision of the proposed CI on registration centers will create a number of avoidable problems for the electorate. First, these provisions, if allowed to be implemented, will make voter registration extremely difficult for citizens whose residents are miles away from the district offices, normally at the district centers. In such situations, the cost of travel alone can be a disincentive for registration. In contrast, if the prevailing practice of using the polling stations, which are usually located within walking distance of residents of voters, is maintained, this problem will not arise at all. Secondly, registrations undertaken at the district office will entail assigning polling stations to the registrant at the point of registration. But the registrant will not know the physical location of his or her polling station at the point of registration. Given the high illiteracy rate in the country, this will create utter confusion on the election day. As such, voters may find it very difficult in locating their polling centers. The so-called emergency and temporary registration centers must equally be known and published at least 4 weeks in advance. Thirdly, one of our major problems likely to emerge from this provision is the possibility of gerrymandering that can be engineered by the registration officials. It should also be noted that the proposed CI states that there will be a district registration supervisors and a registration center supervisors. Both registration supervisors and the registration center supervisors shall report directly to the regional director of the Electoral Commission, making the regional director the only focal point of the registration in the region. Once again, it is our considered view, for the purposes of accountability and verifiability, copies of the report sent to the regional director of the Electoral Commission by the supervisors in the district should also be sent to the respective district officers at the Electoral Commission. The district officers are closer to the registration proceedings in their various districts, and under the CI are among the persons who may give instructions or directives to the registration supervisors and other registration officials. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, The proposed CI again state as follows. 1. Each electoral area shall have a voter register consistent of a voter register of each polling station in the electoral area. 2. The constituency shall have a voter register consisting of voters' registers of the electoral area within the constituency. It is important for us to note that the biometric verification devices, the BVDs, that are used to identify voters at various polling stations do not talk to each other to indicate who has voted at which polling station. Therefore, until such time that the BVDs are configured to be interactive to this in this way, the two registrations being used by the polling station on the election day will open the door to two kinds of infractions, namely multiple voting and ballot stuffing. We are of the view that this should be avoided. Friends of the media, it is obvious that the CI before us, the proposed CI, is only the proposed CI that the Electoral Commission seeks to do. And if you are to refer to Regulation 33 of the draft CI, it revokes CI 91 and CI 126. Therefore, by operation of law, once this proposed CI is passed, it will be the only law on voter registration in Ghana. The Electoral Commission knows that it does not have separate laws for continuous registration and limited registration or mass registration. We are saying that it is time the Electoral Commission pull the brakes and do what is required of him by the Constitution.
So that was Dr. Kasil Atoforson, the minority leader, who addressed a news conference today. And they are saying, even before they addressed the media, they raised critical concerns about what appeared to have been a strange development, because a lot of people monitored the debate, and many would have thought that the publications would have highlighted the critical issues. Don't forget, in his concluding remark on the first part of the press statement that he read, he makes reference to multiple voting and ballot stuffing. In 2020, there were lots of videos of thumb-printed ballot papers, and many would have thought that the police would investigate it. Many would have thought that the Titiman South violence, for example, should have been concluded by now, but there is everything to show that it is not of interest to anybody. And that is why the preparatory part of the voter or election processes becomes of interest. Again, there are issues about illiteracy, because I've lived in several communities before. There are times on my attempt to acquire a visa to travel outside, you have to fill forms and you have to call home to find out your house number, your street name, and those basic things. Many of us know where we live, but if they asked you at random, if you know your electoral area, many would say, I don't really know my electoral area, but I know where I vote. And so if EC has data, and that data is not limited at the point of registration to where you live and your electoral area and all the details that can be made available to you once you walk from your home to the nearby polling station or registration center, people living within your community who know you will easily help you and go through that process. That is one stage. As we speak, I'm getting lots of messages. One message talks about the fact that in some districts, there are ongoing national identification authorities, national ID registration system. And some DCEs have been given quotas, 10 a day and so on. I don't know how it is true. There is one here I would specifically read. And it says that all the cards being issued in Nkoko in the eastern region are marked as issued in Accra. I think this is going to increase the number of cards issued in Accra by the statistics, which in fact will not be so. And it says this must be investigated. So this information comes to me as the conversation go on. You'll be given the opportunity to tell us your own experience, your own concern, and what you suggest should be the way forward. So this program is for you and I today, no guests, ordinary people who want to speak our mind. Many people were asking that yesterday, EC gave full assurances that they are ready to deliver once NIA gives them the data. NIA says we are ready to roll out in days once government gives us the money. And the finance minister was there and said they had been able to quickly raise 100 million cedis. And therefore, it was good enough for the minority to allay fears and allow the process to go. So among the questions that were coming up was, so what next? That was addressed by the minority. How they were going to execute their protest to ensure EC either reviews the CI, adopts some of the recommendations, or drop the CI totally. Listen to Case Latofoson tell us what they intend to do going forward until the report by the committee is submitted for the Speaker, for the Parliament as a whole to debate again as to whether to accept the CI or reject it. But this is what the minority intends to do going forward.
Through its actions, such that this proposed CI needs to be stopped. We conclude with the following point. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen from the media, the Minority Caucus in the coming days will collaborate with the National Democratic Congress to hold a major forum on this subject. This will afford us an opportunity to further explain these issues for the understanding of the Ghanaian populace. 2. Given the critical nature of the issues at stake and the potential of this CI to undermine our democracy and thereby disturb the peace and security of our country, the minority group in Parliament will in the coming days be engaging a broad spectrum of stakeholders, including our developing partners, our faith-based organizations, traditional authorities, civil society organizations, to get them to appreciate the issue at stake and the consequences this bodes for Ghana's democracy and stability. We wish to thank you all for your kind attention. May God bless our homeland Ghana and protect our democracy from imminent destruction.
This morning, a few radio stations subjected this to debate. So we are hearing different views coming from Ghanaian civil society, think tanks, and so on, governance people here and there. But how should we carry this process forward? Some critical questions were raised. For example, people were saying, are you not taking too strong entrenched positions? Which clauses in the proposed CI as we speak should be removed to make it comfortable for you to accept it, because the minority has said from the beginning that they are not against the idea of syncing the national ID database with institutions like the EC and so on. But their worry is what appears to be an orchestrated plan by the NIA and the EC with some tab on the Registrar General's department. Don't forget there was a case at the Supreme Court where even your own birth certificate was not going to be accepted for you to get your EC card. During that process, you know, under the guise of COVID, a chunk of Ghanaians were denied access into their own country and not let alone get their ID card. And you remember the violence at Banda where somebody, a student, was killed by military men deployed to create mayhem. And we saw everything, and they are walking free. Maybe the videos available have been kept so that tomorrow, if there's change in government, they will pursue all those people who have been hired to register, paying on individual Ghanaians just because they are seeking the right to exercise their franchise. So among the questions were which aspect of the CI, which clause should be removed. And then NIA's guarantor system, for example, the EC says is robust compared to that of what EC has put in place, where people can guarantee and it will end up at an arbitration committee, and if you are found guilty, you are sanctioned. And here are some responses. I won't play much. I'll play a few of those responses, and then I'll wrap up and give you the opportunity to call in. Let's hear some of those responses.
That the guarantor system must be added because the Ghana card alone cannot be used as proof of citizenship. So it is obvious that Article 42 talks of proof of citizenship, but doesn't talk of using an ID card as proof of citizenship, one ID card as proof of citizenship. So we insist that the guarantor system is time tested. It is proven that obviously in the case of myself, I did not get to choose to be a Ghanaian. I was born Ghanaian, and my parents should be able to take me to registration center and vouch for me to indicate that since they are Ghanaians and they have evidence that they are Ghanaians, their son also qualifies to be a Ghanaian. And the Constitution provides that clearly. So it's not negotiable. We are insistent that it should be part of it. If for any reason the EC claims that it has been abused, our position is simple. They have every right to strengthen it. In fact, the abuse they are talking about is negligible. It constitutes 0.09% of the total registered voters. So how can that be a material basis for them to abandon the guarantor system completely? It cannot be the basis, and so we insist that it should be part of it. And if she claims that the NIA system is robust, she should just adopt it and then go by it and then let us do it. What surprises us even most is the fact that the NIA system uses a guarantor system, and about 40% of the people holding the NIA card were guaranteed for them by someone. So what is the basis? Common sense tells us that since you have included the source document for the Ghana card, which includes the guarantor system, you should just equally include it as part of the voter registration exercise. So that is something that we can negotiate on. The second point has to do with the use of Ghana card as a sole proof of identification to qualify you as a citizen of Ghana. Now they don't believe in passport. Now they don't believe in any other form of birth certificate or any other form of identification. We can't accept that. It is for that reason that the CI 91 and CI 126 stated clearly that passport and guarantee system, together with a national identification card, can be used as proof of citizenship for the purposes of registration. So clearly, we are insistent that it should be part. And so this is point number 2 that we can negotiate on. And then finally, the last point relating to the registration centers. Registration centers. So my constituency, for instance, as a member of parliament for Ejumako and Yanesiam, the district capital is in Ejumako. There are people that have to travel 30 kilometers or so to the district capital to register. So if you are to make the district capital the only place for registration, you are making it not possible for people that doesn't have money to travel to the district capital to register. And we all know the economic condition. So it will serve as a disincentive for young people that have reached voting age to come to the district centers to register. And that alone, we can't accept that. And most importantly, we all know the economic condition. So they are transferring their burden to politicians and others to carry these people to the registration center and to get them registered. Can we have the resources to do that? No, we can't have the resources to get that. But what even surprises us is the fact that if care is not taken and all of these people come to the registration center, the district registration center to register, they will find it very difficult in identifying their polling stations during the day of voting. And when that happens, and we all know the literacy rate in this country, okay, not even those who are not literate, but you may not even know about it. So you use codes and others to identify those places. And election day, if care is not taken, we'll see chaos everywhere.
There is an existing law that comprises CI 91, which was enacted in 2016, and then CI 126, which was enacted in 2019. The Parliament of Ghana passed both for purposes of voter registration, and both laws are in existence. Now, if you want to change the existing law, you need to show that that law is not working, that there are deficiencies with the law that need to be remedied. As we speak now, the Electoral Commission has not said anything convincing about the deficiencies of the existing law. So let me give you one example. And yesterday we made this point abundantly clear on the floor of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you can read for yourselves. Please go and take CI 91 and look at Regulation 9, okay, on continuous registration. Regulation 9 provides the basis for the conduct of registration of voters on a continual basis, and that includes limited registration. If you look at the proposed CI, the substantive content of the CI in Regulation 9 is the same as the old CI. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission wants us to believe that the reason why she is bringing the new law is so that they can seamlessly conduct continuous registration. So that is a palpable lie. There is no basis whatsoever for what she's doing, because if you are reenacting the provision in the same fashion, it means that you can use the same provision in order to do what you are proposing to do. So there's no basis for it. And the minority leader has made very clear the reasons why saying that the Ghana card is going to be the sole proof of identity for voter registration purposes is inimical to the conduct of registration, especially in rural areas. I remember distinctly when we were conducting the voter ID card litigation before the Supreme Court. I gave one example. In Daboya Mankarago, okay, there is a village that is 85 kilometers to the district center. So if you require that this person, any person of 18 years and above, who has not got a voter ID card, should travel 85 kilometers to the district center in order to be able to, register to vote. Okay, do you expect ordinary Ghanaians with limited resources to be able to afford, transportation and the cost of travel 85 kilometers to the district center in order to be able to vote? So we made the point clear that this was going to lead to voter suppression.
Exactly.
It is going to lead to a situation where people will just give up their right to vote under Article 42 of the Constitution. So take democracy to the doorsteps of the people by making the polling stations the centers of registration. That is what has been the practice since 1992, and that is what has served us well as a country. There is no reason why we should change. So in sum, your question as to whether or not there is anything that should be taken out of the new CI so that we can accept it for enactment will be answered by saying that maintain the existing law, because the existing law is working and it is working very well. If Jean Mensa were a minister bringing a bill to Parliament, she would have had to bring a memorandum that will spell out the mischief that the bill is seeking to cure. For us as a minority, she has not been able to do that convincingly, and we will not accept the new CI, period.
You claim that you can get the money for them. Go and get them the money. Finish the registration of the Ghana card. Then we are certain that you have solved the problem.
Yeah.
Then we can have a conversation on CI. Is that not better than you giving us assurances only for somebody to have a law in his hands without the conditions that are required for him to implement the law? So go and eliminate the Ghana card problem. Instead of giving us assurances, go and give them the money. Get them to go to the field and register the people and release all the cards. And come and say, now we are here, you don't have a problem. The people have the cards. So we want you to consider the CI. That is a better solution than taking promises. They say, go ask the bondholders when they said the maturities will be paid. They are up on the street again.
You don't even have the money to pay salaries. MPs, we've not been paid. And you are saying that we should accept your assurances of future payment.
So that is the minority speaking out its concerns. Now, I am doing this particularly to provoke your thoughts, to also help you to walk into the narratives and join the debate. And that is why I'll be opening the phone lines to disagree with them, to offer suggestions, and perhaps to share your own experiences and what you think should be of interest to any Ghanaian. You remember when Isaac Andongo spoke, he made reference to the fact that it is important at this stage for the NIA to finish its work and report that I have finished and this is what I have on the table. Then the EC can be trusted to do what Ghanaians would expect walking into the 2024 elections. Now, in 2020, you remember in the midnight of the day we voted, December 6th, EC issued a last-minute statement asking the people of a certain area in the Volta region or Oti region called Sol, Santrofi, Akpafu, Lolobida area. And there was a promise that they will create a new constituency or see what to do with them. How many years now? 2021, 2022, we are 2023, we are going into district level elections somewhere in September. The EC chair has gone to bed. Osman Asari has gone to bed. The Attorney General has gone to bed. Government is not interested. The minority has made noise here and there because it happens to be an area within some of the places known as their stronghold. Everybody has gone to bed. So assurances and credibility and trust issues, how do you place them? Now, before we wrap up and give you the opportunity to call, and I'll ask my producers to put the numbers on the screen while the last part of the press conference is being played. There were two critical questions that were asked. One from a colleague from GH1 TV, which had asked the question, simple, that can the CI be laid without the approval of the speaker? Mahama Yariga answered that question. And there was another question I put to the minority leader, that when you spoke yesterday, you suggested that you want the NIA's database to be able to scrutinize it, to be sure that the numbers they are putting out there are not cooked, and also to help you to do verification in your constituencies. Now, let's listen to Ayariga and part of Ato Forsen, then you can start calling.
From the beginning, they could have brought the CI, but they haven't brought it. They are engaging. And this is a matter that you need to build national consensus because it is about our democracy. And so we're engaging, they are making their case, we're also making our case. And you are the media, we expect you to analyze the cases that we are making and they are making and see whether really there's some justification for what they want to do. I believe that the pressure of the strength of our argument and the pressure of your own sentiments as members of the public will cause a rating by the Electoral Commission. This is supposed to be an independent constitutional body. I was surprised yesterday to hear the majority leader say that nobody can prevent government business. This is not government business because the Commission is an independent constitutional body. So they should walk to Parliament as an independent constitutional body and present their matter to both sides of the House as an independent constitutional body. When you see the majority saying that it is government business, that's more reason why
they have interest.
You should all be worried. Why is it government business? Because the Electoral Commission is not government. And government is not the Electoral Commission. So when the Electoral Commission business become officially government business, are you getting that? So we should all be worried. Why is he defining the business of an independent constitutional body as government business? Because it's an independent constitutional body. And they're supposed to bring their matter to us, and then all of us as a House will interrogate it and take a decision on the matter. So this is the consensus building process, and I believe that it should have started at the political party level.
Unfortunately, we have about 7 minutes to time, and people are already calling, and so I cannot bring you the rest. But basically, you heard the summary of what Mahama Yariga said, who concluded by saying that there was little consultation. Ato Forsen says they will get the data, they will go to their constituencies, they will check And of course, they will push for an independent auditor to walk into NIA's database. I have somebody on the line. Please let us know where you called from and make it brief.
I'm Emmanuel Watson. I'm calling from Magazine.
Good. I hope you are fine. Make your statement brief or share your experience.
Yeah, of late, it seems we are losing some of the confidence of an MP. I'm talking about the NDC MPs.
Okay.
Some of the issues on the board inside the Parliament are the way they are handled it. We are not trusting them again.
Mm-hmm.
So they should give us a trust on that issue.
So if you say they should build confidence in you because they raise your hopes and dash it, what would you want them to do differently?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so I'm like maybe in did I personally
into epeda wa ye bibia obesha won kran enye dam bia.
Yeah.
One ya badze them.
It today the CIA whether they kra on oyazo the chaos on the mind during the election time.
Yo mpocho the bisu line no don't see fancy I am da wase. Okay, there's somebody else on the line. Please, and when you call, let us know quickly where you called from and make your statement brief. Kumasi, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hi. Hello.
Yes, we lost the other line because he was listening to himself. Reduce the volume on your set to make your point brief. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm Frank calling from Ashaman.
Good. Go ahead.
I'm Frank calling from Ashaman.
Yes, Frank, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Okay. I was listening to this whole issue, the parliament and stuff. But then, I don't know why the minority group is finding it difficult to do what, to accept this step. Because using the Ghana card as the means of registering a voter's ID, I think it's okay. Eliminating that
guarantor system, is that what you're talking about?
guarantor system, yes, very good. The NIA is using the guarantor system. So why do EC should also use the guarantor system again? And comparing EC guarantor system to NIA guarantor system, the NIA zone is far better than EC. So
it looks interesting. I also have an interest in this. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever witnessed a guarantor system at a polling station or registration center before? You have NDC, MPP, CPP, BDP, all the political parties there. Somebody comes to vouch, swears an oath, fills a form. Once it is challenged, it goes to an arbitration committee at the EC or district EC level where they all go to meet and then they bring evidence to prove that the person is Ghanaian or otherwise, above 18 or otherwise. And when the EC is satisfied, they approve. If they find you guilty, they take you court, they fine you or they jail you. How different is that from the NIA one just because they are saying a commissioner of oath is present? It's equally a human being.
Thank you so much. Let me answer your question with a question, okay?
Okay.
We have instances where a person holds the voter ID card and will register for the Ghana card, and then the system will prove that no, this person is not a Ghanaian. How do you answer that? Okay,
so how do you answer? I'll ask this question, and because we want other people to call, think about it, and let's make it an ongoing conversation. The NIA itself has arrested people who are not Ghanaians, but who registered as Ghanaians. I'm sure you are aware. Think about it. Let's make another call.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, you can go ahead, sir.
I'm David from Bole District.
Bole District.
Yes, please. During the EC chair,
that the NIA guarantees to make a mistake or it's like, or she intentionally wants to mistake the problem by saying that.
Bole, it looks like your line is very bad. I wanted to entertain the call because you are from far away. I know, Bole. So try again and call. Let's speak to the next person on the line. Good evening.
Bole, it looks like your line is very bad.
We can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening, boss.
Good evening, boss.
I am called Brett Alaye from Dominican Cambridge.
Go ahead, sir.
Look, let us all to become one and fight to protect our democracy at the same time our independence. Jamesa, electoral commissioner, want to create a problem to Ghanaians. The peace that we have, she wants to spoil it because she's listening from her paymaster. Master, and we will sit down and look for them.
Okay.
To destroy our independence. All the peace that we have. This is where I am telling our national executives, especially the NDC, to set up and fight. Because otherwise, Master, it will be a problem for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me pick two more calls and we wrap up. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name is Man. I'm calling from Kufuria.
Kufuria, go ahead.
Yeah, my problem is that can NDC minority people can stop this thing, can stop it?
I don't know.
Okay, so that's my problem now. So if they can't stop it, then they should go back to their constituency and tell people to go and register for the card. But if they are in the parliament and all those things.
Okay. Your line is echoing at the back, but you made your point. Good point there. And let me pick one last one. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. Where did you call us from?
Please, I'm calling from Upper West.
Upper West.
Wow.
Good. Your point.
Please, I have just a simple question. I have to ask about this issue or the majority. Yes, sir. Why is it that they are interested in making this as a criminal decision for Ghanaians and they're not finding it that we should open places where people can go and do their cards and so that many people can get it. And they are very busy in making it as documented for voting ID card.
Okay. I would take your question to be the last for tonight. Thank you very much, Upper West, for concluding our conversation this evening. It is something that will be on your table for a while, as long as we wait for the Electoral Commission to get some positive or negative response from Parliament as a whole once the report is submitted to the Speaker for consideration, and then that second round of debate will determine whether it can be allowed to be laid or it will be prevented from being laid or it will find its way out there for us to look at the way into the 2024 elections. I want to leave with this rhetorical question. Some few months ago, the NIA said they were ready to register Ghanaians abroad, and they were planning to pilot it in some selected countries. I remember US, UK, and some were saying, why not Togo or Cote d'Ivoire or Burkina Faso, where there are so many other Ghanaians like Nigeria? So if the NIA can go to them to do this process, why is the NIA not saying that for the interest of this country and the peace, they'll go back to the various districts? If they are telling the EC that we want this to be the sole document, that will be the legitimate right you have to get an EC voter's ID card. Look, I have an interest in this because I have Ghana at heart. I want you to show interest in this and let us all discuss and ensure the right things are done. The rich and a few cannot suppress the majority who equally have a right to determine the fate of this country. Good evening. My name is Ahianyo. See you again.